Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Francois Victor. Welcome to the NICKYNICK New York TV. And tonight we have a special program for you. A conversation with an author, Sarah Bridges. The book is Anneville Road, as you can see. And this is a book that I have read myself, and I would invite each and every one of you to really to read it. A very interesting book about life experience. And in a moment, we will present you Sarah. And, mesdames, mesdemoiselles et messieurs, bonsoir. Je suis François Victor. Bienvenue sur le NICKYNICK New York TV. Jeudi, nous présentons un programme spécial pour nous. C'est une conversation avec Sarah Bridges, qui écrit un livre qui est Anneville Road. En fait, c'est un livre que moi-même je lis personnellement. Et comme je trouvais que chaque Haïtien t'a supposé lire ça, puisque c'est une expérience de la vie. C'est toute une histoire que lui raconter, disons, expérience que le fait dans la vie, disons, nous chaque capable de tête, nous, quelque part, dans le livre ça. Good evening, Sarah. How are you today?
Great, thank you.
This is a pleasure to have you with us on the NICKYNICK New York TV.
It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Well, believe me, the pleasure is all ours. I have to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, Sarah is a writer. I would say that, you know, an author of this book. And is that your first book that you have written?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That's your first book?
Yes.
And there is a French, an old saying, and that was written by Corneille, I think, that, you know, c'est un coup de maître. Disons, that was, you have mastered that subject so well. And I was saying before we started the show, I kept that book in my car, and if anywhere that I go, and I kept it for I had to say for 5 minutes, or at least I could devour a couple of pages in there. This is how interesting it is. You know, you always keep on thinking about what is next that is coming. And what really triggered the idea of writing this book?
I started writing the book 17 years ago now. It was a way to work out life experiences on paper. Characters would just come into my mind that were working out life's issues. Throughout life, when you find yourself in a situation where something is so moving and so beautiful that's happening around you, whether you're dealing with people or learning about people, different kinds of people, it would just manifest as characters, and I would have to just write it all down and get the feelings out and emotions out, and it came as stories. So that's what over 16, 17 years from being a teenager up into adulthood, it was working out situations and problems throughout life with fiction and through these fictitious characters that just I had to get them out, get the stories out to be able to make sense of what was going on around me. So.
Actually, as you go along with the story, those characters are witness. You have witness there, because you have the 5 generations of women and men. I've seen marriages and also broken heart, and also a mother. As a matter of fact, in that we'll come to that just to explain how it happens. But actually, this is a subject where you have touched very sensitive, I would say, emotions of the different people. Characters like what happened to the Woods, to the Johnsons, and Maureen, Elise. We have lived through their mistakes in life, and I could say these are mistakes that are repeated through to our life with Elise, with Reed, and Maureen. Not mistakes, actually. The way, the path of life that they have gone through.
Yes.
And then, so, in other words, the story actually happened in a very small town of Texas. Correct. And that's also a fiction.
Yes.
And there are, somebody just told me, don't, if you see Texas, don't say there is nothing small in Texas. I said, well, it has to be some small corners in Texas.
Yes.
But anyway, I'm glad if there is no small corners in Texas, so nobody can say, oh, is she talking about me?
No. Right. How I respond to that is the stories in the book are fiction. The truth in them comes from the feelings and emotions. When you, and also I do come from a background of 5 strong generations of women that I was, fortunate enough, blessed enough to know. I knew my great-great-grandmother. I knew my great-grandmother. I had these women in my life that were so strong and taught me so much. So there is that, in that respect, that's where I learned much of what's in the book, but the stories are actually fiction. The stories themselves are fiction. But the feelings and experiences and their life experiences to draw on, come through in the book. So
we'll be right back in a minute to continue the conversation with Sarah about her story, her love story, as I would say, and to continue that conversation with Sarah. I'll be right back.
Just like it's a birthday, we're gonna cook it like it's a birthday. We're gonna hit it like it's a birthday. Come Charlie, it's a birthday. We're gonna party like it's a birthday. Cook it like it's a birthday. Like a basa.
Welcome back to the NICKYNICK New York TV, and we are having a conversation with, I would say, allow me to say, a great author.
thank you so much.
Because for if it is for the first time, God, what is going to be a second time or the third time? Because you have done such a good job here. Let me remind you, ladies and gentlemen, this is a love story, actually a fiction. This is a novel. But as you read it, it seems that it's not a novel anymore. It's like a real life story. If you allow me to talk about my own experience while reading the book,
Yes.
it's like when I'm looking at the characters, I look at Maureen, her character, the way the children grew around her, Elise, what happened to her, Isaac, and Wigan that comes to meet Reed and somewhere. And if you have witnessed so many things in life, like, the 5 generations of women that you have lived with, and as you said before the break, you have known that your great grandmother, and I'm sure they have lived a generation where
Yes.
times were really tough,
Much different, yes.
much different. So they lived a generation where not only different, but kind of hard.
Yes.
For 2 different kind of people to live in the same town. For instance, like, when I read about the Johnsons, what happened to them, Ruth Johnson and her husband, and it's even Maureen, Ellen is white, and then they were a black family. And the town would not accept like, you know, not only blacks, but also any whites that would be
Yes.
friends.
They wouldn't accept their friendship.
They wouldn't accept, like, you know, any friendship. And if
Right.
they know that, you know, you are a friend of a black person or blacks, and then you will be persecuted also.
Right.
And then that triggered the death of the Johnson. Johnson, you know, who was very close to Maureen. Is that correct?
Yes. Hmm.
So how you reconciliate that in terms of changes, how it used to be, the changes that you have lived through, and if you allow me to ask you those two questions together, what triggered the behavior of those who feel that, you know, well, I can be a friend of a black family, there was no problem with that? Was it their education? What is the way that they have seen things? Was it coming from their heart? Or have they had an opportunity to meet or to see or to get closer to those that everybody else don't want to talk to?
I think a lot of that comes from, I grew up in a small town, and there's a lot of, I can speak, you know, from that perspective for sure. There's a lot of fear when they don't know a particular group of individuals. Like, for instance, you know, the first time I met Haitian people, I didn't know what to expect. You know, I had met my husband, he was, you know, Haitian American, so really Americanized, but when I met his family, I didn't know what to expect, because they're honest, let's be honest, they're different cultures. My culture's completely different from his. So I was a little nervous about what to expect. But when I met them, it was just so warm, and so, I say this all the time, I felt like I was home, like I was genuinely home, because the people were so warm and friendly and honest and sincere. And I just, going back to the subject, the reason why I bring that up is because I think when you live in a small community in a small town, and you don't experience other cultures, and you live your life not seeing anything else, you miss the human element, the element of humanity that we all have. And you see someone and you see their behavior may be a little different, and you know, might be not doing things the way that you were taught to do them, and it triggers a little bit of fear, because I think as humans, you know, human beings, that's kind of how we teach our children. Don't run out in the street, you're going to get run over, you know, don't, you know, this or that. So anything different, sometimes, you know, when you're not exposed to a lot, can bring about fear. And I think that's kind of the thing that's going on there.
So we wish that everybody had the opportunity to go closer to what or who they don't really know.
Yes.
And then therefore,
at the same time, you know, it goes both ways. You know, if you could get out into a small Texas town community, you know, people from somewhere else, you know, anywhere else, could get into a small Texas town community. I write about in the book some of the really bad things that are going on in these situations, you know, where people don't know other ways. But there's also a great element to that too. There are good people, and that's where I talk about Lloyd and Ellen and you know, in the book, about how they just weren't, you know, for lack of a better term, having it. They just weren't having it. They were going to do what was right, and their love for people was such that they didn't care what the rest of the town thought or, you know, was doing. So
yeah, actually they had also, they were different financially, and people would come to them, whether black or white.
Yes.
They would come in their stores.
Yes.
So they had the opportunity to meet at a certain level.
That's exactly right.
The different the different characters.
They did come as business owners in a small town. They did service, you know, the black community as well. And so
well,
they did.
That's business. Is that correct?
And exactly. And so at one point in the book, if you'll remember, Maureen is hearing, you know, all these, you know, things going around in her town about, you know, colored people, and she says, no, I know one thing for sure. I know they are people. And she grew up with that human element of seeing them come in and out of the store. So yet again, back to what we were saying, she was exposed to other people.
Yes,
so,
that's the opportunity that Lloyd, Maureen, and Ellen. When you see Ellen after the death of her husband and her son, that Maureen had witnessed, and so she went to Texas with her. I mean, you know, practically, I want to go with you, and then she just hopped in the car, and then went all the way down to Houston. Where you know, that's a bigger city where she had the opportunity. Okay, she could go there with her business and everything. Well, we'll be right back with that very interesting conversation with Sarah as she developed for us more idea of where she is coming from with this beautiful story of Anneville Road. Back in a minute.